Welcome to Harrison Hacks.
Hey guys, welcome back to Harrison Hacks. Today is the release of the Sega Model 2 add-on for HyperArcade. So I'm pretty excited about this one. There's a few good games on here that I've never experienced until I started emulation. So I wanted to share this pack with you guys, and let's go ahead and check it out. So the first thing we do, as usual, is we're going to go to the link in the description, and it's going to take you to download a text file, the HyperArcade Sega Model 2 pack link.txt. And you can see here that we can just highlight everything inside just like so. Right click, copy. We'll close it. And then we can just paste and go in our web browser. And we just want to download the two zip files, 001 and 002. So once we do so, you're going to want to right click on 001, and I like to use 7-zip, and I just go to extract here. Once it's extracted, we'll have a HyperArcade folder. Let's go ahead and cut or copy. So I will just copy, and we're going to want to paste it into the root of our H drive. So right in the root. So you can see HyperArcade right there. We don't want to be inside of it. We want to be outside of it. And we'll just paste it in the root of H. So I won't bore you guys with watching it copy over. So I'll be right back. Okay, so copying just completed. So now we're going to want to go into our HyperArcade. And we're going to want to go into attract, track.exe, so we can launch it up. And you can see that we do not have Sega Model 2 yet, so what we want to do is press tab on our keyboard. We're going to go up to displays, press enter, and we're going to want to find Sega Model 2. So we'll come on down here, Sega Model 2, press enter, and up to show in menu, press enter, and then we can change that to yes, press enter. And the same with show in cycle, we want to change that one to yes. Now we can back up, and we now have Sega Model 2. So I'll quickly show you guys around. So 39 games on the Model 2. Bunch of different Daytona USAs. I do want to say that I've been trying to mess with the controls for the Daytona USA games, and it just doesn't seem to be working for me. I mean, I keep getting mixed results, but I can't seem to pinpoint it. So if anyone knows a good way to set up the controls for the racing games, at least on the Sega Model 2 emulator, please feel free to let me know. I'll continue to look at it when I can, but I could not get it to run with the controls perfectly, dialed in. But I'll let you guys go through all the games. So before you're going to start, each game has its own controller configuration. So I'm going to show you that now. So we'll back out of HyperArcade. We're going to go up a folder, emulators, Sega Model 2 emulator, and then we will launch it up. So we can launch emulator exe or the emulator multi-CPU exe, it's your choice. So I'm going to go to emulator, load ROM, and I'll pick Dead or Alive as a test game. So I'll just double click on that. Now it will launch full screen. So what we want to do is just press escape once on our keyboard, and that'll shrink it down to size. You need to launch a game. So each game has a different set of controls. So you have to launch a game, then go to game and click configure controls. So I've already done mine, but you can just over here under key. So here's your input, player 1 up. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to press up on my controller. And then down, left, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, start and coin. And then if you want to set up a second player, you can as well. I only have one controller connected right now, so I'll just do 1. And we click close. And since the game's loaded, let's just test our buttons really quick. Right. select a player. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. And when you go to emulator exit, it will automatically save your button configuration. So what I'm going to do now, I just did that in the emulator.exe. So now I'll do the multi-CPU exe, emulator load ROM, and I'm going to load Dead or Alive one more time. Just to ensure that when you do the buttons in one, it works in both. And it does. And there we go. Good to go. So I will exit. Emulator, exit. And let's go into HyperArcade. We'll launch it up. Okay, so I'll launch a game through the emulator. So here is Dead or Alive. And I'm pressing start, nothing's happening. So my buttons aren't working. So what I've found, I'm going to show you guys a quick fix. So let's do that now. So if you run into that issue, I did find a way to fix. Now I know this works with an Xbox One controller, and I'm not sure if this works with Xbox 360. I would imagine it does. Anything using X input, this should fix your issue. So we're going to go into HyperArcade, emulators, Sega Model 2 emulator, and emulator.ini, we're going to right click and edit with Notepad++. So make sure you have Notepad++ installed. And it's one quick little fix. So when we scroll down, we get to the input, and X input is at 0, enable support for Xbox 360 compatible devices. So I am going to click next to the 0, backspace, and put a 1. And I'm going to hit save. Make sure we hit save and close. And then let's go ahead and launch a game yet again. So we're back in HyperArcade, and we'll launch Dead or Alive. And now there's my start button, and I'm off and running. Excellent. So I'm going to press start and select to back out to HyperArcade. And there we go. So a little bit more in depth on this one. Like I said, the racing games, I'm still trying to dial in the controls for those, but I do know that like fighting games and stuff like that are pretty easy to get the controls done. It sucks that you got to launch each game individually and set the controls, but I mean, it is what it is. That's just how the emulator works. And make sure that little tip I showed you about the X input, you know, if you're having issues with your controls, hopefully that X input feature will help you. It's a pretty quick fix, so nothing major involved. But yeah, this emulator is a little more in depth than others, but it's actually a really good emulator. It's well designed, and I like a lot of games on here, so it's worth the aggravation for me. But I guess, you know, it to each their own. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoy the Sega Model 2 HyperArcade add-on. As usual, I really appreciate your support, and have a good day.